Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Series, where I go over every 2023 Men's College Basketball Conference Tournament. Next up is the Big-12 Tournament, which will be held at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri, as it is each and every year. And the Big-12 is one of my favorite tournaments. First round, Wednesday, March 8th. Quarterfinals, Thursday, March 9th. Semifinals, Friday, March 10th. And the championship game, Saturday, March 11th at 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central on ESPN. Alrighty, to the seedings. Your top seed in this tournament is probably the best team in the country, although ranked number 3 in the AP poll, 25-6 overall, 13-5 in conference play. Your Kansas Jayhawks. Your 2 seed in this tournament, 23-8 overall, 12-6 in conference play, 7th in the country, the Texas Longhorns. Your 3 seed in this tournament, 23-8 overall, 11-7 in conference play. Your number 12 team in the country, the Kansas State Wildcats. Your 4 seed, 22-9 overall, 11-7 in conference play, 10th in the country, the Baylor Bears. 5 seed, 18-12 overall, 9-9 in conference play, the Iowa State Cyclones. Your number 6 in this tournament and 22 in the country, the TCU Horned Frogs, 20-11 overall, 9-9 in conference play. Your 7 seed, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 17-14 overall, 8-10 in conference play. Your 8 seed is the West Virginia Mountaineers, 18-13 overall, 7-11 in conference play. Your 9 seed is the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 16-15 overall, 5-13 in conference play, and your 10 seed is the Oklahoma Sooners, 15-16 overall, 5-13 in conference play. All right, this all begins Wednesday, March 8th, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. It's either going to be on ESPNU or ESPN2. If I had to guess at gunpoint, probably ESPN2. 9 seed Texas Tech, 8 seed West Virginia. Texas Tech is in turmoil. Their coach just got suspended for saying some not so nice things to a player. That coach is on the hot seat anyway. That program's a mess. It's been a mess since Chris Beard left. 5 guys averaging double figures a game, led by Kevin Obener. And West Virginia, slow start in conference play and really turned it on from the end of January on to solidify itself as an at-large team. They are led by Eric Stevenson, 15.5 points a game. They have 4 guys averaging double figures. I project the Mountaineers 1.5 over Texas Tech, total 145.1, so therefore I have the Mountaineers advancing. Second of 2 first-round games, 10 seed Oklahoma, 7 seed Oklahoma State. Oklahoma's been a big disappointment this year. I like Porter Moser, but this league's just hard, and somebody had to finish last. 2 guys averaging double figures a game, led by Grant Sherrifield at over 16 a game. And Oklahoma State, under a lot of pressure to at least win this game to potentially solidify itself as an at-large. And even if they win this game and they lose in the quarters, not a lock. Not a lock. 4 guys averaging double figures a game, led by Bryce Thompson, nearly 12 a game. I project Oklahoma State 2.8 over Oklahoma, total 136.25, so I have Oklahoma State advancing. Quarterfinals. 5 seed Iowa State, 4 seed Baylor. ISU, they're a roller coaster for sure. Oh my goodness. They're led by Jaron Holmes at over 13 a game. Baylor, slow start in conference play too, but really turned it on from January on. They're led by Keontae George at 16 a game. I project Baylor by 7, total 139, so I have Baylor advancing. Second of 4 quarterfinal games, 8 seed West Virginia, 1 seed Kansas. Kansas is just a beast, as we talk about. 4 guys averaging double figures a game. Jalen Wilson's probably the Big-12 player here, averaging almost 20 a game, over 8 boards a game, 2.5 assists, almost a steal a game, half a block. He's just a do-it-all guy on the Jayhawks. I project Kansas 9.3 over West Virginia, so I have Kansas advancing. Third of 4 quarterfinal game, 7 seed Oklahoma State, 2 seed Texas. Texas has done a good job riding the ship with Rodney Terry, but there's pressure on this team to make a run in the big dance if Texas wants to keep, or Rodney Terry wants to keep his job at Texas or remove the intern tag off. There's a lot of pressure there internally. So 4 guys averaging double figures a game, led by Marcus Carr, averaging over 16 a game. I project Texas by 6 over Oklahoma State, so therefore I have Texas advancing. In the last of 4 quarterfinal games, 6 seed TCU, 3 seed Kansas State. TCU has been decent all season. 3 guys averaging double figures a game for most of the year. But Mike Miles Jr. Missed some time that he leads the way in scoring with over 17 a game. And they also have Damian Bogg averaging 13 a game. Kansas State, wonderful season. Jerome Tang should be the Big 12 Coach of the Year. That's because they were picked last and they finished third, and that's a top half-ranked team in the country. But it's probably going to go to Bill Self because he's Bill Self and all he does is win Big 12 titles regardless of who's on his roster. But Kansas State has been wonderful this season, led by former Florida player Keontae Johnson, averaging over 17 a game. And they also have Marquise Nowell averaging 17 a game too, and is a good distributor as well, averaging over 7 assists per game. I should have TCU favored by 3/10 over Kansas State. Total 144. So I have TCU advancing to the semi. So no chalk in the Big 12. So first of 2 semifinal games Friday, March 10th. 4 seed Baylor, 1 seed Kansas. Both these teams are a lot of fun. I just think that Kansas is way better, led by Wilson, Grady Dick, Kevin McCullough Jr. and KJ Adams will come through over a Bears team, which I think is really good, led by George and LJ Cryer and Adam Flagler. I think they're fun too, but I have Kansas 2.2 over Baylor, so therefore I have Kansas in the championship game. Semifinals, 6 seed TCU, 2 seed Texas, in-state rivals. I think Jamie Dixon is a fabulous coach at TCU. Miles Bogg and Emmanuel Miller have done good work for them from a team standpoint. I talked about there being pressure on Texas to get some wins here in March. We talked about Card. He's wonderful. He's the best player on the court in this game. Sir'Jabari Rice, Timmy Allen, and Tyrese Hunter are all solid players as well. I project Texas 3.5 over TCU. So therefore I have Texas advancing to the championship. So a chalk final in the Big 12. 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central on ESPN. 2 seed Texas, 1 seed Kansas. Dream matchup. We just saw this over the weekend. Texas won. But I do think that this will be an outstanding game. I just think that Wilson's the best player on the court, although I think Carr can match him for Texas. I have Kansas 2.2 over Texas. So therefore, I have Bill Self and the Jayhawks winning yet another Big 12 tournament, this time in the year 2023. So Kansas, I think, is for sure going to be a 1 seed. I think that they had to beat Texas the other day to be in the conversation for number 1 overall. I think number 1 overall could still end up being in play depending on what happens at Houston in the American, Alabama in the SEC, although I hope karma, for certain reasons, doesn't reward them the number 1 overall seed. because if we'll get to them in the SEC podcast, I don't want to step on it. And there's some other teams, Purdue, you could argue. But here's another team for the number 1 overall seed. The UCLA Bruins. They gotta be in the conversation for the number 1 overall seed. I think the UCLA Bruins right now would be my pick to be the number 1 overall seed. Or Houston. But Kansas will be in the conversation if UCLA, Houston, Alabama all lose at some point to be the number 1 overall seed for sure. Texas, I think we'll see on the 2 or the 3 line, depending what happens here. Probably a 3. Same with Kansas State. Baylor, I think, will be a 4. They had some weird losses. I think Baylor on paper should be a 3, but they had a quad 4 loss in non-con play, so they deserve to be punished for that. So I put them on the 4 line. TCU, I feel like it's going to be a 5, if not a 4. Iowa State, I think, is tailor-made for a 10 seed. But they'll probably be higher. Maybe they'll be like a 7 at the highest. The lowest, I could see them as a 10. Maybe they're in the 8, 9. But maybe they're rewarded because they're in the Big 12. So I would say they're an 8 seed. And West Virginia, I think, will be a 10. I think their win over Kansas State on Saturday assured them an at-large spot. They needed that win, and they got it. Oklahoma State, I think, is a bubble team, but the question is, will they be in Dayton or in the NIT? And at gunpoint, I think they'll be hosting an NIT game. And then I think Texas Tech will be in the NIT. And I think that Oklahoma will not see postseason action this season. In terms of a team that can make a surprise run in the conference tournament, I know West Virginia made it to the semis in a year that they underachieved, but lost to Kansas. Obviously this year's West Virginia is way better than that West Virginia because this year's West Virginia is obviously going to the tournament. But if there's a surprise team that makes the semis, I mean, Texas Tech would have been a fun one, but the Mark Adams turmoil, I think, could distract them. Oklahoma with Sherfield, maybe it's them that goes on a surprise run. They upset Oklahoma State and their hopes of getting an at-large bid. And then they would play Texas, maybe Texas is looking ahead a little bit, and then they catch them off guard. So maybe it's Oklahoma, or maybe it is West Virginia, because they're getting together at the right time. They should have probably beaten Kansas in Fog Allen Fieldhouse a few weeks ago on that Saturday, but they didn't. So maybe you can make a case it's West Virginia that makes a surprise run in this tournament. So the odds, where's the Big 12? There's the Big 10. Here's the Big 12. Kansas is favored plus 275. Texas is 330. Baylor is 475. Kansas State is 650. Iowa State 652. TCU is 750. West Virginia is 15-1. Oklahoma State's 30-1. Texas Tech and Oklahoma are each 40-1. I think at West Virginia 15-1 is a good number to play. I think that even Oklahoma at 40-1 is a good value play. So the value plays are West Virginia at 15-1 and Oklahoma at 40-1. All right, so that's it for the Big 12. Next up is the Big 10.